We're going to travel out to Hawaii here for just a couple of minutes and spend time talking with someone who obviously knows Tua Tagovailoa, was a big part of the development phase, and we're certainly going to salute him for what he has meant to not just Tua, but other quarterbacks. And I was reading some quotes earlier when he spent his days at Hawaii in Alabama, played the Rainbow Warriors there. When we talk about Alabama going out there and then and those guys coming here, he was a part of that coaching staff, a brilliant offensive mind. Coach Lee, welcome to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, sir. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. Doing great. Yes. Beautiful day today. So just kind of enjoying the day.
I can imagine. What's the temp out there? I mean, make us all jealous here. It's freezing here, but is it 80 degrees, sunny and beautiful out there?
It's about 84, I think, this morning. It's 10:30 here, so it's what, 2:30?
Yes, sir.
In Tuscaloosa, yeah. So it's still morning here, and it's about 84.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you again for coming on and helping us understand what Tua Tagovailoa has meant to you, and obviously the development side. We're all excited about what he's going to bring to the University of Alabama, but can you take us back to that moment that when you watched that national championship game, and as his former coach, what went through your mind when you see that pass that he delivered with a national championship winning throw?
Oh, just actually when they went in at the half, I was with a lot of our coaches, and they were saying, "Jesus, I think they're going to need to play Tua." And sure enough, when he ran out there on offense after the half, I could we all could see the difference in the whole team. It was like they got some life going. They were fired up, and right away they started moving the football.
Let me go back to that play, and you and I were talking about this last night. That is a play that you're very familiar with allowing him to run this in high school.
Yes. It was what we call 80 divide, and I didn't really see Alabama run that in the past, and I've watched a lot of the games. But we run that quite a bit. It's a choice route that we run to the single receiver, 3-by-1, and the execution that not just Tua but the receivers, the route that they ran was really a great job by the coaching staff at Alabama putting that together, because they ran that to perfection. The receivers running their routes, now moving that safety to the trip side, by Tua looking to that side. And that receiver made that safety hang in the middle there. So it was a well executed route by everybody. But we run that same play. That's a big part of our offense. At least 20 times practice session, because there's so many variations of that. So Tua was really, really well prepared for that route and executed to perfection.
We're talking to Coach Lee, the offensive coordinator at St. Louis High School there in Hawaii, is Tua Tagovailoa's coach. And I want to go back. When you first, help me understand when you first saw Tua Tagovailoa as he was working his way through high school, and when did you realize that he had a special talent?
Well, he played on the junior varsity team when we went there. We were gone for a while. We were at the University of Hawaii, so when we went back the first year, he was coming out for the varsity as a sophomore, and he had that. He had the arm. He really could spin the football. And he was just exceptional. But he was only in the 10th grade, 15 years old, and but he could definitely throw the ball. And we had a couple seniors that were quarterbacks, and he was going to be competing against those seniors. But when he first came out, this was our first year as coaches. I mean, he was unbelievable talent, and it was just a matter of him learning our system. So he ended up being a number 2 guy as we started the summer, and he gradually worked his way where he became the starter when we started our first league game. And the rest is history. He was our starter for 3 years, and just unbelievable.
How many football games did you guys win in that 3-year period, Coach?
Well, the first year we lost in the league championship. We lost in the playoffs. And the second year we went to the state championship game and lost. It was our only loss. And then his senior year we won the state championship.
Coach, he
was, and it was a matter of getting the culture change, and we were gone from St. Louis for 15 years or so. So, Tua, after learning the system and so forth, I mean, he really helped carry us through these big games there.
Coach, would you say that there at St. Louis High School, did you, because of the college experience of you and your brother, did you guys run a college-type offense? I mean, the complexities of that at the high school level?
Yes, we've run the run and shoot offense, and really our emphasis has always been on reading coverages, route adjustments, where the quarterbacks and the receivers need to be on the same page. So Tua was able to get a lot of that kind of training, and as far as practice, we threw the ball just about the minute we got on the field till we ended. In the games, normally we threw the ball between 80 and 90% of the time, but our practices, film work was always about coverages and different defenses. So I think that really helped him. I was a little skeptical about when he chose Alabama because, I've watched Alabama over the years, and they weren't really a passing team. But he was so impressed with Tuscaloosa and Alabama and the coaching staff, everything about it, that, that's where he really wanted to go. After the visit, he committed to Alabama, and that's where he was going to go. So.
Well, he compares, obviously, his home back in Hawaii there to Tuscaloosa. He said it's very similar. The culture, the faith background, obviously faith is very important within our community. It's very important in the community that you live in. And he said the only thing that we lack is beaches. We don't have any, beautiful oceans like you guys have out there.
Yes, well, he was on the west coast and in Hawaii, very near to the ocean. And, in Hawaii, that's growing up, that's basically 50% of your time is spent on the beach. With Tua, it was on the beach, and then the rest of the time throwing the football. So, that's his whole deal here. So I'm sure he misses that, but he's sure enjoying himself there in Alabama.
Well, Coach, let me ask you, when you see the moment, and I told you last night, we had a discussion here on this program, and you think about Alabama football, you think about 17 national titles, 125 first-team All-Americans, 26 SEC titles. We could go through the credentials. But yesterday we had a debate about what is the greatest play in Alabama football history. And we have callers and people who on social networks who chimed in. And we kind of walked away 4 hours of talking to the best fans in the country that play in that moment of time, that national championship winning play, was one of, if not the greatest play in Alabama history. I mean, that has to make you feel like a proud dad to see your player out here accomplishing great things in Alabama.
Oh, it was. I had to watch it the second time because the way he executed, I really wasn't paying much attention to the route. But the way he executed by looking away and coming back outside, really came down to what we try to do at the high school, and that's getting a good pre-snap read, and really that coverage that they used was probably the worst coverage to be in for that particular play. So I think Tua, we don't even see that coverage that much because when the corner sits and tries to jam that wide receiver, it's a real tough job, and he ran just an unbelievable route. So that pre-snap read was a big thing. When I watched it, when they replayed it, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's divide," which is what we call that. I think in Alabama it's Seattle, but in St. Louis it's called divide, and they executed that to perfection. But Tua really picked that up on the pre-snap read, and when he saw that they were in cover two, he was going to go to the single because he has other options. But how he set that up was just a thing of beauty, and what a great throw!
It was simply amazing, that throw. Coach, let me ask you about the culture there, because Tua's background, help us understand that. Many of us that are listening to this program, I've never been to your beautiful state and look at everything, but help us understand the culture there that Tua was a part of, and the workmanship and the attitude, because even Coach Saban said, Tua makes me a more polite person. I mean, Coach Saban has said that publicly in a press conference. He said, Tua makes me more polite and more respectful. Just talk about that culture for a couple of minutes and kind of help us understand that.
Well, yes, the Samoan culture here is really so family oriented, and Tua was very, very close to his grandfather, who has his own church out in Ever Beach. In fact, Tua one day said he wants to really build a church out there, and it's a very Samoan community, and it's that Samoan culture basically is how the elders really play a tremendous influence in the children, and Tua being close to his grandfather and his father, that have done just a tremendous job, spiritually as well as just the kind of person, the humility. They're very humble people, very physical, competitive, but yet they're very gentle and very spiritual. And Tua was not just our leader, but he was also our spiritual leader. And I've never been around. I've been coaching for so long that, but his prayers before the games, after the games, that he would recite scripture. For a high school kid, 15, 16 years old, it was so impressive how he would motivate and so sincere and knowledgeable about the Bible, and it was unbelievable how he would do that. But it was that way in his community and his church. The first year that he played, poor guy suffered through that. We lost that championship game. He lost his grandfather that week, and it was a real tough situation for him to focus on the game with his losing his granddad. But it's a close family. In fact, so close that the family, I think they're all living in Tuscaloosa now, and they moved to be close to Tua. Everything's around the family, and his younger brother Taulia, it was on schedule to beat Tua's record. Tua was the passing leader here, and Taulia, as a sophomore, was already closing in on Tua's records, and he transferred to a school up in Alabama, and I guess doing really well. But that's the kind of family that they have, so close knit to really relocate from Hawaii to Tuscaloosa is quite a change, but that's family for them, and so dedicated to each other. And I think why Tua is the way he is, the humbleness and doing this for his grandfather and for his, they really look at it as a whole bunch of family out there in Ever Beach.
Coach, final couple of questions here. Where does your background come from as far as coaching and the coaches that you've worked for? Obviously, when you look at your offensive mind, you've got a long list of pedigree as well, and I know you've been able to pass that on to Tua. But talk about your background and some of the great coaches that you've worked for.
Well, I really haven't worked for a lot of coaches. I started really young. I went to Willamette University in Oregon, but got to know Mouse Davis, who was at Portland State coaching. So this goes back to the late 60s, early 70s, and got familiar with the run and shoot, which Mouse was running at Portland State. So, that's basically how we started. And I've, again, going back to I think 72, when I spent some time at Portland State with Mouse, learning the run and shoot and the concept of route adjustments and stuff. And we've been running that since then. And, we just kind of stuck with it. And back then, especially 4 wide receivers, just nobody ran that except Mouse. And it was something new. And, people thought we were crazy, especially in Hawaii. Everything was so physical. They were all running the ball and power football. And we came with this 4 wide receivers and created a lot of problems. And we've had some success with that. And we still kind of do the same stuff, and it's still working. We've been fortunate enough to have some great quarterbacks. We go back to, Darnell Arsenault, who played for Utah, Timmy Chang, that had the NCAA record for several years, yardage, Jason Gesser, that was at Washington State with Mike Price, almost coached at Alabama. So we've sent out a lot of quarterbacks, and of course Marcus, we didn't coach Marcus, but they ran a little bit of a passing game, Marcus Mariota, and then now, of course, Tua. We just sent another quarterback going to the University of Hawaii, Chev Caldera, that broke some of Tua's records. So, this system here is still working pretty good, but this is all we know. This is all we've run for a long time, and kids love it. We got some tremendous athletes and quarterbacks, especially that really compete. You can only use one, and it's very competitive. And I think Tua is a good example of that. So, yeah, we've been doing this since the early 70s, and still, working with June. I was at the university for about 12 years with University of Hawaii, and we had Coach Brennan and Timmy Chang and some really good Nick Rolovich that did really well throwing the ball and running this kind of system. So, that's kind of my background, and now I'm back at St. Louis and wrapping things up here.
Well, Coach, I just want to say thanks again for being a part of our show. Like I said, we've obviously very excited about what Tua is going to bring. I know we got a small sample size in that 2 quarters of play in the national championship game, but I just wanted to dive a little deeper into Tua's background, and you've helped us understand that. And we're excited with the connection that we're going to have with your community and then what's here in Tuscaloosa, and just excited to see his growth and development here at the University of Alabama. And I appreciate you, and I know I talked to Tua down in New Orleans, and he gave a lot of credit back to you, and I know your brother back in what that means to him. He talked about the development side of things where, because I asked him, I said, it's unusual for someone your age to have the pre-snap ability that you don't generally see until a junior or senior in college with that much knowledge, and he paid a lot of respect to the complexity of what he ran in high school and with that much of experience. So, Coach, I greatly appreciate the conversation. Congrats to you and your family and your community, and we're excited to have Tua Tagovailoa here in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you, and aloha from Hawaii.